Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar. My name is Armando Ortega, and I'm the Director of Product Marketing at Replicon. I'd like to thank everyone today for joining us in today's webinar entitled Time and Attendance for a Mobile Workforce, which is going to include a live demo and a Q&A session. Today, I'm joined by my colleague, Scott Bales, who is our Director of Solution Engineering at Replicon. And in today's webinar, we'll be discussing how a fully enabled time and attendance solution can help organizations increase the accuracy of their time tracking and provide more current information in real time to help organizations make better decisions. And this is especially important in today's age as we see that our workforce has become more and more mobile. Today's webinar is going to feature a 30-minute format so that we can get information to you quickly and allow you to get on with your day. Scott's going to spend most of the time in today's webinar giving you a product demonstration. But before that, I'd like to give you a brief overview of Replicon and talk about the state of mobility. Now, before we get started, I'd like to go over a few housekeeping items. I'd like to talk about how you can participate in today's webinar. You'll be kept on mute during the presentation, but you can submit your questions at any time. Just use the Q&A text box located on the right-hand side of your screen. And then we'll be addressing the questions at the end of the presentation. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. So Replicon is the leader in cloud time tracking applications, and we're used by millions of users across the world to manage a lot of different things, including workforce attendance, tracking time by projects. Professional services organizations use us to track time for billing, as well as shared services organizations for tracking time for managing their own services that they deliver to their people within their departments. So we're used by many people for many different things. This is a subset of some of the customers that we have. Just wanted to highlight the diversity and type of customers, very well-known companies that many of you recognize here, as well as a lot of smaller organizations that can use our solutions because we are a cloud-based platform. It's very easy for them to get live and get going. They don't require a lot of in-house IT staff to install and manage their application. SaaS really brings it to whatever size organization we have. And so moving into our topic today, we're talking about mobility, and we'll be demoing our Replicon solution, in particular focusing on the mobile aspects. And a lot of times when people think about mobility, organizations is an interesting thing. They usually have this concept of these two different roles. One is it's a consultant or a salesperson who's traveling around the globe in airports, maybe in a taxi cab and needs access to information. Or maybe it's somebody like the person on the right who's actually local, not traveling around the world, but actually out of the office, maybe doing field service or just meeting with clients and not available by his or her computer. And these are all very true and appropriate uses of mobile. But I'd venture to say that even if you don't have organizations, even if your organization doesn't have these type of roles or employees, you are dealing with a mobile workforce. And here's why. As all of you are probably well aware and are seeing it in your day-to-day lives, mobile solutions and devices are just exploding. Here are just a few stats from McKinsey. A report from McKinsey shows that 90% of employees are using their smartphones and tablets at work and at home. So pretty much everybody's using them. What I find interesting is the second bullet that says that 75% of these people will continue to use them regardless of who pays the bills. So even when companies aren't actually giving people mobile devices, they're using their own devices, and they want to be connected mobily, even if they're in the office. They might be in a different room, but they want to be able to do something and access information in real time. And so for all of these reasons, it's very important. And then we see the last stat here by Forrester with the massive increase that's projected even more in mobility in the future. So people are using it, and they expect to use it. And so it's something that is important to deliver to your employees, since that's the way that they're used to working in their personal lives, and it's becoming a lot more and more common in their professional lives as well. And so that's the approach that we take at Replicon in developing our solutions. So as I mentioned earlier, Replicon is a cloud-based time tracking platform. And so we house our application in the cloud. But our philosophy is that we really want to allow people to access that tool and that solution from whatever device that they're using, from whatever medium. So mobile is a huge part of that, the iPhone or the Android device. And so we'll talk a lot about that in this webinar. But also having access through our web page, through our web interface. People who are at their desktop can have a different experience with Replicon. We support tablets And for those of you who are doing time tracking with clocks, we actually also support a time clock device that is very easy to use and connects with the cloud to be able to punch in and punch out with a physical device. So this is our philosophy. It's having a centralized area where you can store all of your time and attendance information, but giving you many different ways to access that information depending on the specific needs of your workforce. Now, moving specifically into mobile now, as I mentioned, everybody is using it. They're expecting to use it in their personal lives, and it does bring a lot of benefits to an organization. The mobility allows them to access, for one, the application from anywhere, whether they're as I mentioned earlier, they're traveling abroad, or they're outside the building, or in the building, but not at their desk. It really provides that connectivity. The second is, by giving that access, users can really start to take advantage of those small incremental time blocks that previously were not really productive. So you're standing in line waiting for a ticket, or you're doing something where it's a very short minute increment. Normally you wouldn't be able to do anything with that. Well, mobile lets you do something with that time. You can approve a timesheet, or you can submit an expense right after you've had your dinner with a client. So all of these things make it a lot easier. And the information is all captured in real time. So if you're capturing your time on a daily basis as you're incurring it, it's going to be more accurate, and the information is going to be more real time. Your managers are going to be able to make better decisions with that information. So there are a lot of benefits to mobility. And so with that, what I'd like to do is hand it over to my colleague, Scott Fales, who's going to take you through our solution. Scott, over to you.
Excellent. Thanks, Armando, and welcome everybody to today's webinar. I am going to, I'm really going to spend most of my time today going through how Replicon leverages the mobile platform. Armando has already told you about all the benefits of that platform, so it's important for time attendance and time capture providers to give that interface to their users. And what I'm going to do today is look at how Replicon has delivered that experience to mobile devices across our user base and to prospects that are going to be coming on board in the future, like the ones on this webinar. So what we're looking at here is actually my iPhone screen share. This is a real-time demonstration of the tool. So I'm sharing my iPhone screen right now, and I'm going to go ahead and sign in. What we'll do first is look at how an end user or how an employee might leverage a mobile platform on their phone or on a device that you may have provided for them. I'm just going to go ahead and sign in, and as I do that, I'll point out that we do support single sign-in with Replicon. So if that's something you're leveraging in your organization, then you won't even see the login screen. I then have three options, and these options are really based on the products that you're leveraging with Replicon. I have timesheets, expenses, and time off, and we're going to go through each of these and understand how a user could potentially interact with them. If I click timesheets, I see a listing of all my historical timesheets in the system. I can see one for the week of April 14th to the 20th, and if I click that row, I'm also going to see that I've entered 6.5 hours on Tuesday in this timesheet, and if I want more information about that, I'll click the Tuesday and understand specifically what hours were entered to different clients, projects, and tasks. Now this is one format for time capture. Replicon also supports the capture of in and out times for maybe a more blue-collar workforce that is doing simple punches as opposed to project time tracking. At the top, you'll see days of the week, and if I click on Thursday, all of my existing tasks come over for me, although they're now zeroed out. So I could add hours to any one of them, or I could add a new task or project. I'm going to click the plus sign in the upper right. That gives me a listing where I can select my client, project, and task by clicking inside the box. I'm presented with a filtered list. This list is clients, projects, and tasks that I'm associated with, and this list can get very unwieldy, especially when we're dealing with mobile. That can be a lot of data to be processed by the device. So what you're able to do is actually search through this list, and if I want to find, for example, let's say I want to find dashboarding project, I can just start typing the name of the client or project that I'm working on. I can see two dashboarding projects in my list. I can select the one for EXO Communications. I can then drill down and choose a specific task. I'm doing some discovery work on it. And then the last item is billing. So if you are using one of our products that supports billable rates, you can choose one of multiple rates that may apply with the same search capabilities on this screen. I'm going to just choose the project rate for now and go ahead and save the entry. Now that's added a row to my timesheet at the bottom, and if I want to update the hours, I simply click the hours box, enter the fact that I did 2.5 hours, save in the upper left, and it's done. Those hours are now being pushed back to the server and updating the Replicon Cloud platform. If my supervisor, for example, or a project lead was running reports on this specific project or this client, they would see that those hours were logged real time within the reporting interface. Now, time capture and modifying time is not the only thing that can be done from the device. You'll notice at the bottom of my timesheet I can also submit, and the workflow processes through the device are also available. So I'm going to submit my timesheet from here, and that has generated an email notification to my approver, or multiple approvers, because the system does support multiple approvers. And my approver will be able to log in. We'll show you what that looks like in a moment to do the approval. Now if I go back to my main menu and click on expenses, I can easily upload expense receipt images and add new expenses into the system here. I'll say gift, purchase a gift for a client maybe. I'll say gift for client. I can then enter a filing date. I can choose a currency. The system does support multiple currencies. Once I've created that sheet, I can then add one or more entries to it. I'm going to click the plus sign in the upper right-hand corner now, and then I can indicate the project or client that this receipt is related to. I'm going to say it's related to the Advantage Technologies client project that we worked on. The type of expense, and again, this list is defined by yourselves. I'm going to choose miscellaneous because that's where our company puts our gifts or client-related expenses. And for amount, I'm going to choose to enter just in the default currency, click the amount, and put in the $9.99. Now, days gone by, I would have had to, send a hard receipt off to my accounting department and have them look at it and compare it to the device. But what we can do is click the receipt photo line right at the bottom of my screen there and tell the app to take a photo. Lock my machine, sorry. Tell the app to take a photo of the receipt. If you're happy with the image, you can use the photo. Click Done. And then obviously ask to be reimbursed for the expense because I went out and I purchased it out of pocket. Once I save this, I can save and submit it for approval to my approver, just like the timesheet. So we're going to go ahead and go back down to the main menu again for one last end user experience, and that's the time off experience. So on my way home from the client side at the end of the day, I realized that I get a call from my wife, and she's telling me, you know what, we bought the tickets for our flight, or there's a sale on tickets for our flight in July. We need to decide if we're going to go. So I would open up the time off section of my phone. I would go to my balances, first of all, to make sure that I have the time available, and I can see that I do have vacation time available. Next, I click the plus sign in the upper right-hand corner to book some time off. I would book vacation time at this point, then click Done. Then I'm going to click Start Date to indicate the start and end date of my vacation, and it's July, so I'm going to move forward to the next couple of months. Within July, I'm going to click the start and end date of my vacation, then click Done. The system populates this detail, and on that Friday, I know I'm going to have to come back to wrap up for the week. We've got some team meetings, so I'm just going to go ahead and indicate that I'll be back in the office at 12:30, and number of hours. So I can go ahead and submit this through to my boss or my approver. You'll notice the balance was updated real time. So the system knows what my balance will be at that point in the future, and it tells me what my updated balance will be after taking this request. Again, that would flow through to my approver, who we're going to go ahead and log in as now, so we can see what the approval experience is going to be from the mobile device. I would say that almost the majority of mobile device usage, if not on par with the end user experience, is the approval experience. Executives and approvers and supervisors that are on the go do not want to have to log into an application through a web page to make simple approvals. And that's why the mobile is so popular with them. So let's log in as an approver now and show you how easy it can be for them to make those same approvals. So I'm logging into the same instance. With my email address, and again, we could bypass the login process completely if we had single sign-on set up for this account. My password, it's very secure. And now I've signed in as Jim Chakos, who is the approver for Scott's timesheet and expenses. And you can see I, as an approver, might have the same capabilities. I might have to do timesheets. I might have to do expenses. So I can do all of those things just like any other user. But I also have a team section in addition. And that team section is where my approvals are going to occur. And I can immediately see that I have 6 items that I can see all my different types of approvals broken down for me, timesheets, expenses, and time off, and they all function very similar way. So if I click the pending approvals for timesheets, they're sorted in order of due date, so I can action the ones that are maybe more overdue than others. I can quickly select individual or multiple timesheets and approve or reject them. If there's something here that doesn't make sense to me, like the 9 hours that Scott has logged for an entire week of work, I can drill down into Scott's timesheet and click his name and explore, what's the cause of this, what's going on. It looks like Scott just forgot to submit some time for certain days, or he submitted it early. I'm going to reject this back to him and say, where's the rest of your time? And this is important because this takes away the phone calls, the emails, the telephone tag that happens when you reject this back to the user. The system is going to take care of that for you because it's going to email Scott back and tell him in that email your comments. Where's the rest of your time? Your time. Good thing I can spell. Where's the rest of your time? And then I reject this back to him. An email goes to Scott, and Scott is actually going to log into the web interface to take a look at that in a moment. But now going back, you can see my list has removed Scott from my list of approvals waiting. I could also do the same thing for expenses. I could drill down into an example, an expense from Paula. I can see that which ones are reimbursable based on the little camera and the dollar sign. I can also see, if I click on the airfare expense, for example, I can see that she's uploaded a picture, and if I click on it, I can see the image that she's uploaded for me. Okay. So again, it makes it very easy for me to approve all of these expenses, all of these time entries without having to log into a web page, and that just ultimately results in more productivity for me as a manager. Now what we're going to do is I'm just going to play the role of Scott again, and I'm going to step into my timesheet because all of this data that we're dealing with on the device is synchronized real time with the Replicon platform. So what this means is when I log in as Jim through the web interface, I should see that I have a rejected timesheet that needs actioning. So bear with me one moment. There's my Replicon login screen. And I'm going to, again, log into that same instance we were dealing with here. I'm going to click the login button. And again, once I've logged in, right away, I can see, oh, there's a comment from my supervisor saying, hey, Jim, where's the rest of your time? There's those 2.5 hours I entered previously. So I would be able to go ahead and finish populating my timesheet at this point, and then submit it at the end of day tomorrow like I meant to do. Okay. If at any point in time I need to remember what the comments were from my manager. If they were more detailed, I could come back to the approval details and see those real time. So again, that information from the phone is real-time interface back to the web platform. If I log in as an administrator, we'll see, and I'm sure you've seen already, the fact that you'll have access to do all kinds of reporting across your team, reporting of all the time data and expense data within the system. We'll log in quickly to see some of those capabilities real time. So everything from understanding your team and what the statuses are of all of their timesheets historically, getting full details into all the statuses of those timesheets, where they are at in the approval process. You can quickly find out what's waiting for others. We can see the statuses if I'm a project manager. I have visibility into trending for the projects within the system, understanding, how are we doing real-time estimates versus actuals, and that's in part because we have a mobile workforce that's able to update things quickly and on the fly. Something that was brought up in a previous webinar is there's no more excuses. Oftentimes the integrity of the data and the quality of the data that we're getting is jeopardized because it's done 2 weeks after the fact. It's done at the end of the week, and now you can see that data day by day, real time, thanks to providing a mobile platform for your employees. That's really what I wanted to speak to today, and some of the benefits and how it would work within Replicon. I want to pause there because I know that we've got a lot of questions that have come through in the Q&A panel, and I want to get time to address as many of them as possible.
So I'd like to take this time to thank everyone for joining us today for this webinar. I'd like to thank Scott for delivering a really great, nice, succinct overview of our mobile solution and Replicon. And thanks, everyone, and we hope to see you again in a future webinar. Have a great day.